You're listening to Big World Network.
Subprimeval, Season 2, Episode 9, Aggressive Behavior, Part 3. Written by Robert S. C. Cutler. Read by Ryan Jones. Warning: although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. Out from under the toppled shelves and old paint cans, a creature rose 6 feet in height in front of the car and screamed. Its glowing eyes and mouth full of razor-sharp teeth sent a shock of panic through Mike's body. "What are you doing? Get us out of here!" he yelled. "I'm trying," Renee cried as she struggled to move the shift lever. "My car won't go into reverse." "Are you kidding me? Put your foot on the brake and then shift." Renee pushed the brake pedal all the way to the floor, and the lever moved with ease. She exhaled, smiled, and then looked back. "Brace yourself, I'm going to get us out of here." The small car flew back down the driveway and hit the deep gutter between the driveway and the street with such force that it bounced hard enough to become airborne. Renee shifted into drive and raced down the tree-lined street, all the while keeping a keen eye on the rearview mirror, hoping they weren't being followed. The car's alternator belt squealed in fast rhythmic tones, indicating the end of its life, and causing the one working and intact headlight to flicker on and off. The idiot light on the dash, letting the driver know there was an issue with the alternator, lit up in bright red along with the low oil light, check engine light, and anti-skid braking system. "My car's dying!" Renee cried. "You'd better keep going or we're gonna die too!" Mike yelled. "Make a right on the next street." "I think my power steering went out. I can hardly move the wheel." "Then you'd better slow down or we're not gonna make that turn." "I can't. My brake pedal is all mushy and the gas pedal is stuck." "Well, shit, do something! We're headed straight for that house!" Mike panicked. Renee turned the steering wheel to the left with all of her strength, causing the out-of-control car to power slide and barely miss a minivan headed in the opposite direction. The small car picked up speed, its engine protesting and the tachometer stuck in the red. Fighting to keep straight, Renee looked up ahead just before the sole remaining headlight went out and discovered they were driving straight for a line of trees. "We're headed toward the river!" Mike screamed. "You turned the wrong way! You turned the wrong way!" Renee's face was wrought with panic. Her eyes were a flood of tears. She had such a tight grip on the steering wheel that a numbing pain had spread from her knuckles all the way to her shoulders. Just before impact, her body released all of its tension, making her feel like she had no bones in her body. In a bubble of her own consciousness, she could no longer hear Mike's screams of panic, the engine revving, or the sound of the collision as her front bumper made violent contact with the steel guardrail. The Beat to Hell compact flew through the air, rolling to its left, and spilled Renee out, depositing her into the hillside, into a soft bed of pine needles and leaves. Caught up in his seatbelt, Mike lost consciousness just before the car collided with a large oak, stopping its forward motion with a violent jolt. The car crashed to the ground, buckled and twisted. To her surprise, Renee was still conscious, and as far as she could tell, not hurt in the least bit. With her hearing restored, she took some comfort in the sounds of the wind traveling through the tall pines and a barge sounding its air horn as it traveled down the Mississippi. While scanning the dark woods for Mike and her car, Renee heard another sound, an odd sound, one that reminded her of an old horror film she had seen as a child. A low, reverberating growl just behind traveled up her spine, raising the small hairs on the nape of her neck. Turning slowly, she found herself face to face with one of the creatures. Its mouth was partly open, revealing a mass of razor-sharp teeth dripping with saliva. Its moist snout rose up and down, sampling Renee's scent. "Don't move," a voice in the darkness cautioned. "I have it in my sights." Renee did as the voice asked. She didn't have any other choice. With her heart beating violently in her chest and the coffee she had just drank bubbling up in her throat, it was all she could do just to keep her bladder from releasing. The sound of 2 pops, one right after the other, made Renee flinch. Recoiling from getting struck with tranquilizer darts, the creature screamed out in high-pitched tones and then looked straight at Renee as if it were accusing her of inflicting the pain. As it lunged for her, someone grabbed Renee from behind, pulling her out of the way, but not before the creature's long, sharp claws dug deep into her thigh. "It's going down!" the voice yelled. "Get ready for transport!" The man belonging to the voice dragged Renee at least 10 more yards away from the fallen creature and set her down gently onto the ground. "Just leave the bear trap attached. We'll remove it when we get to the lab," he commanded, and then turned his attention toward Renee. "Are you hurt, ma'am?" "What do you think?" Renee asked while pointing at her blood-soaked jeans. "Where did you get that wound from?" "Are you serious?" Renee spat. "Well, I did just witness you falling out of that car. It could have been from that or the creature, and—" "Who are you, and what the hell is that thing?" "Agent Shore, ma'am," Freakshow replied as he held out his hand. "And that thing is classified, so I can't really answer your question." "Oh yeah? Well, your classified thing just got done tearing up my house and car, so I think you owe me an explanation." Freakshow ignored Renee's rant as he examined her wound with his flashlight. He gently pulled back the torn denim to get a better look, and had his hand slapped away. Knowing that what he was looking at was much more serious than the injured woman realized, he called to his partners to bring a stretcher and medical bag, and then called ahead so the pilot could make room on the helicopter. "Helicopter?" asked Renee. "I'm not hurt that bad. It's just a scratch. Mike needs emergency care, not me." "Who's Mike, your boyfriend?" "Yes. No. He used to be, and he still might be in the car." "The one that crashed?" asked Freakshow. "What did you think I meant? Who are you people?" "That's classified, ma'am," Freakshow said as he motioned over 2 other agents. "Davis, Carter, go check out the wreckage and see if the other occupants survived the crash." "And then what?" asked Carter. "Does he have a cell phone?" Freakshow asked Renee. "Yeah, I think he has it." "Good. One of you guys call, Freakshow turned his attention to Renee. "Who should they call?" 911? Freakshow nodded in approval. "Good idea." As Davis and Carter ran toward the wreck, 2 other agents converged on Renee with a stretcher and medic's bag. Before she could argue, a hypodermic needle was plunged deep into her arm. Within seconds, Renee's world turned blurry and then black. Distorted-sounding voices floated around her head, and then Renee was floating. Before she completely went under, she heard one of them yelling, "He's alive, and the fire department is on its way." Renee awoke on a plush couch in front of a television with one of the major network morning news shows blaring in her ear. Her body was stiff and felt like it had been twisted every which way but normal. Her right thigh was on fire, and her knee down to her foot was numb. As she opened her eyes, panic set in. She didn't recognize the room, the furniture, or the clothes she was wearing. She didn't own any nightgowns, only flannel pajamas. Her rings, bracelets, and earrings were also missing. Was she in Mike's apartment? Was last night just a nightmare? As she tried to sit up, a searing pain shot up her leg to the middle of her head, just behind the eyes. Renee looked down at her injured leg and shrieked. It was twice as big as the left and almost black from the calf down. "Mike! Mike!" she cried. The voice of the morning anchor was replaced by the voice of a woman with a thick African accent telling Renee she should just lie back down and relax. Renee stopped crying, not because the voice told her to, but because she was frightened. She looked around, searching for its owner, not realizing it was coming from the television speakers. The room she was in more closely resembled a hotel room than a bachelor's apartment. It was too clean and too neat for Mike to live here. When Renee's eyes reached for the door, she noticed right away that something was missing. There wasn't a doorknob. "Where am I?" Renee whispered. "You are safe and being cared for." Still confused, Renee quickly looked around the room for who was talking to her. "No need to be alarmed. I am speaking to you remotely. My name is Dr. Bahiti Touré, and you are under my care and supervision. Your injuries may seem minor, but are quite serious. In fact, they are life-threatening. My leg is discolored and twice the size of the other. Believe me, it doesn't seem minor to me at all. The swelling and discoloring is a side effect of the medicine we have administered. The real danger is swelling deep inside of your body. We are tracking a virus that can have a deadly outcome if not kept in check." "A virus? How did I get a virus? I haven't been sick in over a year. That is classified information, and I am not at liberty to discuss it. Hearing the word classified jolted Renee's memory. She and Mike being attacked by those things, the car wreck, and then the man in the woods claiming to be an agent of some kind came into clear focus. What is this place? She stammered. That is also classified. If I were to tell you, we would have no other choice but to hold you indefinitely. As of now, you have a 50-50 chance of surviving, which is far better than those who have come before you. Renee's body began to tremble and then violently shake. The room was spinning, and closing her eyes only made it worse. What's happening to me? She cried, and then fell back hard against the arm of the couch. Outside Renee's room, watching remotely, Dr. Touré turned to her staff and announced, She is having an adverse reaction to the new drug. Bring her to my lab so I can neutralize the virus. Freakshow stood nearby. Neutralize the virus? He asked. If you know how to do that, why haven't you already? Because I injected the virus into her to see how her body would react. Freakshow shook his head. I thought the creature gave her the virus. Dr. Touré patted Freakshow on the back as she got up to leave. My dear boy, there is so much for you to learn.
You're listening to Big World Network.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.